Please read us a story, old bear. We'll all gather round. Dear old bear, sit in your favorite chair. We'll sit all around, dear old bear.
Old Bear was just thinking how peaceful it had been all day. Duck was nearby putting together a jigsaw puzzle, and Bramble Brown and Little Bear were quietly playing marbles. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise. It's something outside the door saying "Ruff, ruff," said Old Bear. I think I'd better take a look. Old Bear carefully opened the door, and in bounced a woolly dog. It bumped straight into Little Bear, who fell over backwards and landed right on top of Duck's jigsaw puzzle. "Hello," said Old Bear. "Who are you?" "I'm a dog," said their visitor. "We guessed that," said Little Bear, straightening his trousers. "But what's your name?" "I don't think I've got one." "We could call you Ruff," said Little Bear. "Old Bear said he'd heard a ruff outside." "I like that," said the dog. "Does everyone have a name?" "I think so," said Little Bear. "Come and meet some of our friends." "Do you all live here?" asked Ruff. "We do," said Duck. "Where do you live?" "I don't know," said Ruff. "I was left in the garden next door. I don't think anyone really wants me." "I wonder why," muttered Duck, looking at the muddy footprints Ruff had left all over the floor. "Perhaps it was because I was rather bouncy," said Ruff. "When I was younger," he added quickly. "Everyone's bouncy when they're young," said Little Bear kindly. "How old are you now, Ruff?" "I'm not sure," said Ruff. "I think I'm 7. "Don't you know?" said Little Bear. "I always count my birthdays." "I've never had a birthday," said Ruff. "Nobody ever gave me one." "Never had a birthday?" said Little Bear. "Old Bear's had hundreds." "I know. Why don't we give Ruff 7 birthdays? One for every year he's missed." "An all-week birthday," said Rabbit. "Whoopee!" "Does that mean I can stay for 7 nights?" asked Ruff hopefully. "Of course," said Old Bear. "And you can sleep on our bed if you like, as long as you don't bounce." That night, Ruff slept close to the other toys and dreamed about birthdays. His ears twitched and his tail wagged, but he didn't bounce at all. The next day was Monday, and it was Ruff's first birthday. He jumped down from the bed to join the toys. "Happy birthday, Ruff!" they all cried. Little Bear gave him a beautiful birthday bow and helped him tie it on. The others gave him presents too: a rubber bone, a new collar, 2 pairs of Wellington boots, and 3 balls. Bramble Brown had made a lovely birthday cake. "That smells delicious," said Ruff, but he sniffed just a little too closely, and some of the icing stuck to his nose. He sneezed so hard that he blew out the candle on his cake. Then Ruff cut the cake very carefully so everyone could have a piece. "It's nice to have friends to share a cake with," he thought. On Tuesday, it was Ruff's 2nd birthday. "Let's play treasure hunts with Ruff's birthday presents," suggested Little Bear. Couldn't we use something else for treasure?" asked Ruff. "I haven't had my presents long." "I could just hide the 3 balls then," suggested Little Bear. Ruff thought that was a much better idea. So Little Bear set about hiding the 3 balls while the other toys promised not to peep. When he was ready, the toys began searching. They looked in things and they looked behind things. They searched high and they searched low. It was great fun treasure hunting, and quite soon they had found first 1 ball and then another. But they couldn't find the 3rd. It was only when Little Bear discovered he couldn't sit down for tea that he remembered he'd hidden it down his trousers. "I thought they were a bit lumpy," he said. Ruff's cake had 2 candles on it. He blew them out very carefully. "Only 5 days to go," he thought sadly. "I wish I could stay longer." On Wednesday, it was Ruff's 3rd birthday. His new friends gave him cards they'd made themselves. Ruff read them over and over again. "I really can't decide which one I like best," he said. "Are you ready to blow out your candles now?" asked Zebra. Ruff took a deep breath and blew. Out went the candles, and down went the cards. "What a lot of cards," thought Ruff happily. "That's how many friends I have." And he propped them up all over again. On Thursday, it was Ruff's 4th birthday. Old Bear had suggested a game of musical chairs with cushions. The toys marched round and round while Duck played the music. When the music stopped, everyone rushed to sit on a cushion. Except Ruff, who sat on Rabbit by mistake. Just then, Old Bear arrived with the birthday cake. Ruff jumped up and bounced over to blow out all his candles, very carefully, one at a time. On Friday, it was Ruff's 5th birthday. "I thought we could play Pass the Parcel today," said Old Bear, and he showed the toys a huge lumpy package he'd wrapped up specially. Soon, Old Bear had them all sitting in a circle, and they began to pass the parcel, round and round. Then the music stopped. Little Bear was holding the parcel, so he took off the first layer of paper. The music began again, and Little Bear quickly passed the parcel to Bramwell Brown, who managed to pass it to Ruff just as the music stopped once more. Ruff tore off one layer of paper, but he couldn't stop. In no time at all, he'd torn off all the paper to reach the prize in the middle. "That was not playing properly," said Old Bear. Ruff's tail drooped. "I'm sorry," he said. "I just got too excited." On Saturday, it was Ruff's 6th birthday. Old Bear couldn't think of any more games, so he asked Ruff what he'd like to do. "I'd like to drive a train," said Ruff, looking across at the little wooden train standing in the corner. "I don't think you'd fit in that one," said Old Bear. "Well, why don't we make a new train?" said Little Bear. "A big one." So the toys built a special bigger birthday train with room for everyone. "We're off!" cried Ruff from the engine. He was in such a hurry to drive away that he nearly forgot Little Bear. The train rattled round the track, faster and faster. "This is fun!" cried Ruff, who was having a wonderful time. Some of the other toys were beginning to feel dizzy. "Stop!" shouted Rabbit. "My ears are coming off!" At last the train came to a halt. "Shall we have my birthday cake now?" asked Ruff. But some of the toys were feeling a bit wobbly and weren't very hungry. Ruff counted the candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. "Oh dear," he sighed. "What's the matter?" asked Little Bear. "Tomorrow will be my last birthday," said Ruff sadly. "Not really," said Old Bear. "After tomorrow, you'll have one birthday a year, just like the rest of us." It would be nice to be like everyone else, thought Ruff. On Sunday, it was Ruff's 7th birthday. But when he woke up, there seemed to be nobody there. "Perhaps they've all forgotten me," he sighed. "Or maybe they want me to go." He jumped down from the bed and sadly gathered up his new collar, his rubber bone, and the 3 balls. He put on his shiny new boots and went to the door. It was then he heard a funny noise out in the hall. Opening the door a tiny crack, he peeped out. And there were all his friends. "Surprise, surprise," they said. "Happy birthday, Ruff. We have a special present for you." And they showed him a beautiful cushion, decorated with Ruff's favourite things. "We'd like you to stay with us, Ruff, and this is your very own place to sleep," said Little Bear. "Oh, thank you," said Ruff, jumping straight into the middle of his present. "Now that this is my new home, I'll be able to give you birthday surprises too." And they all agreed that Ruff's 7th birthday was the happiest one of all.
Please read us a story, old bear. We'll all gather round. Dear old bear, sit in your favorite chair. We'll sit all around, dear old bear.
It was a warm summer's day, and all the toys were sitting under a tree in the garden. They were watching Bramwell and Jolly trying to make an old curtain into a hammock, and were waiting for Old Bear to read them a story. Now, this story is about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, began Old Bear, opening the book. Who's Goldilocks? Asked Little Bear. She's a little girl, said Old Bear, sighing. Little Bear already knew who Goldilocks was because he'd heard the story lots of times before. The Three Bears lived in a cottage in the middle of a wood, Old Bear went on. I like this one, interrupted Little Bear, especially the bit about the porridge. We'll never get to that bit if you don't listen to the story, said Old Bear. Now, one day Goldilocks was walking in the wood when she came to a little house. Can I have some porridge? Asked Little Bear. You don't want porridge on a hot, sunny day, said Duck. Porridge is to warm you up. Little Bear pretended to shiver. I'm feeling a bit chilly, he said. Just here, he added, rubbing his tummy. Bramwell Brown smiled. Well, I was going to make lunch soon anyway, so perhaps we could have porridge today. Can I help? Asked Little Bear. No, you stay here and listen to the rest of the story, said Bramwell. I won't be long. The toys settled down again as Old Bear told them about Goldilocks arriving at the house of the Three Bears. They were just listening to the last page of the book when Bramwell returned. He was carrying a tray laden with a steaming dish of porridge and a pile of bowls and spoons. Come and have some porridge, he called to Jolly. I want to get this up first, replied Jolly. I've only fixed one side to the trees. Looks like a theatre curtain hanging like that, said Bramwell. So it does, said Old Bear. Perhaps we could put on a play. What's a play? Asked Little Bear. A sort of moving story, said Old Bear. Some people pretend to do things that are in a story, and the others watch them. Oh, said Little Bear. That sounds fun. Can I be in the play? Only if it's about someone very small, muttered Duck. Why don't we do the story Old Bear has just been reading, said Rabbit. That has a baby bear in it. And the bears all eat porridge, said Little Bear. Actually, they don't, said Duck. They go out to leave it to cool down. They only eat a little bit, and Baby Bear doesn't get any at all. I'm not being a bear who has no food, said Little Bear. Well, you could have some before we start the play, said Bramwell, spooning some porridge into a bowl and passing it to Little Bear. While Little Bear ate his porridge, the others went off to the shed to look for the things they'd need for the play. In a dusty corner, they found 2 big boxes to use as the rooms in the house. Some middle-sized ones for making a table and beds, and smaller ones to make into chairs. I'll bring things that might be useful in the play, said Duck, piling odds and ends into one of the smaller boxes. When they arrived back to where the curtain hung between the trees, they pushed the biggest boxes into position. Said Bramwell thoughtfully. I think we'll cut a hole here and here for the front door and the window, and one there to go into the bedroom. Old Bear and Little Bear were busy making the furniture to go into the house of the Three Bears. Who are going to be the Mummy and Daddy Bears? Asked Little Bear. I'll be Daddy Bear, said Old Bear. And perhaps Bramwell would like to be Mummy Bear. You can wear an apron, he added. Bramwell found a big piece of flowery material in the box of bits. He cut a hole for his head and 2 strips to tie the apron round his middle. This looks just right, he said, as Rabbit tied a bow for him behind his back. Lovely, said Old Bear. Now, how can we make Little Bear look like a baby? Well, as he's got porridge down his front already, said Bramwell, perhaps a bib would be a good idea. I don't need a bib, protested Little Bear. It's just for the play, said Old Bear. You can take it off at the end. Bramwell made Little Bear a tiny white bib and tied it round his neck. There, he said. Now you have a costume. You look like a real actor. Are we ready to start? Asked Jolly. "We haven't got a Goldilocks yet," said Duck. "She has to eat the porridge and break a chair." "I'll be Goldilocks," said Little Bear. "You can't be Goldilocks and Baby Bear," said Rabbit. "I'll be Goldilocks. I haven't had any porridge yet." Rabbit pulled a yellow curtain fringe out of the box and draped it over his head. "How's that?" he said. "Lovely," said Old Bear. "Now all we need is an audience. Ruff, could you go and tell everyone we're ready to begin?" Ruff bounced off to fetch the other toys. When he returned, they all settled down on the blanket. As soon as they were seated, Jolly grabbed the edge of the curtain and trotted across to pull it back. And there, sitting up at the table, were the 3 bears, all ready to eat their porridge. "This porridge is getting cold," said Little Bear, tasting his first spoonful. "Shh," said Bramwell. "Pretend it's too hot. We're supposed to leave it to cool down." Little Bear blew hard on his bowl. "This porridge is burning hot. Let's go for a walk while it gets colder." The 3 bears got up from their chairs and went outside. Almost immediately, there was a rat-a-tat-tat on the door, and there, in the doorway, stood Rabbit, wearing his yellow curtain-fringe hair. "Is anybody there?" he called in his Goldilocks voice. But as the door was open, he could see that no one was in, so he bounded into the room, tripped over Daddy Bear's chair, and landed headfirst in the biggest bowl of porridge. "Help!" he cried, scraping the contents of the bowl off his face. "This porridge is too sticky." He jumped onto the next chair to try Mummy Bear's porridge. "And this is too lumpy," he added as he dangled his curtain fringe in it by mistake. Finally, he took a flying leap onto Little Bear's chair and squashed it completely flat. "Oops," he said. "I'll have to stand up to eat the porridge now." When Rabbit had eaten up every bit of Little Bear's porridge, he yawned. "I think I'm ready for bed now," he said, and turned to go through the door between the kitchen and the bedroom. As soon as he'd left the room, the 3 bears came back. "Who's been tripping over my chair and spilling my porridge?" said Old Bear. "And who's been sitting on my chair and dropping things in my porridge?" said Bramwell, pulling a piece of curtain fringe out of his bowl. "And who has completely squashed my chair and eaten my porridge all up?" said Little Bear. "Never mind about the porridge," said Old Bear. "It's time we all went for a sleep." "But we've only just got up," said Little Bear quietly, as he trotted along behind Bramwell. It was Old Bear who reached his bed first. "Who's been getting porridge all over my bed?" he said. "And who's been muddling up my bed?" said Bramwell. "And who's bouncing up and down on my bed?" cried Little Bear. "Lie down, Rabbit. You're meant to be Goldilocks fast asleep," he added crossly. "But all that porridge has made me really bouncy," protested Rabbit. "I don't feel tired now." "Well, you're supposed to be frightened of the 3 bears and run away," said Old Bear. "Oh, I can do that," said Rabbit. He waved his arms about and tried to look frightened. Then, with a leap and a bound, he bounced straight through the open window. The audience clapped and cheered. "Wonderful!" called Ruff, as the 3 bears came to the front of the box to bow. Rabbit came round to join them, and when they'd finished bowing, Jolly marched across with the curtain. "That was very good," he said, popping his head round the curtain. "Do you think I could have my porridge now?" Bramwell looked in the dish. "I'd better go and make some more," he said. "Little Bear has eaten most of this." "Well, I don't feel hungry any more," said Little Bear, yawning. "But all that acting has made me very tired." He climbed into Baby Bear's shoebox bed and snuggled down. "Can we have another story?" he asked Old Bear sleepily. "Well, just a quick one," said Old Bear. "Then we'd better put everything away." Old Bear picked up another storybook. "Once upon a time," he began, but when he looked down, the Baby Bear was already fast asleep.
Please read us a story, old bear. We'll all gather round. Dear old bear, sit in your favorite chair. We'll sit all around, dear old bear.
It was a fine, warm summer's day, and Bramwell Brown and his friends were out exploring the garden shed. "There's so much to play with," said Little Bear. "I don't think we'll ever want to go back to the house." Bramwell found a heap of old newspapers and was tearing them into sheets. "What are you doing?" asked Little Bear. "Watch carefully," said Bramwell, "and I'll show you." He folded one of the pieces of paper in half and then in half again. After a few more folds, he held up a little paper boat. "That's lovely," said Little Bear, taking it from Bramwell to have a closer look. "If we had lots, we could race them down the stream." "That would be fun," said Rabbit. "Could you make us all one, please, Bramwell?" So Bramwell made a whole fleet of paper boats, one for each of the other toys. "Let's try one out in Sailor's bath," he suggested. Sailor was having a wonderful time. He'd filled an old tin bath with water from the hose and was floating round and round in his little wooden boat. "Ahoy there!" he called when the others popped their heads over the side. "Come and have a sail. It's fun in here." "Can we try one of our boats in your bath?" asked Rabbit. "Of course," said Sailor. "There's plenty of room for two." "We've all got a boat," said Little Bear. "We're going to race them in a minute down the stream." "Like this," said Rabbit, lowering his boat into the water and giving it a push. The little boat sailed well at first. Then they all watched sadly as it slowly went soggy and fell over in the water. "Oh, no!" cried Little Bear. "They don't work. What can we do?" But Bramwell was already examining his paper boat. "Actually," he said thoughtfully, "I think the reason they're no good in water is that they aren't boats at all. They're hats. Pirate hats." "But we can't have a boat race with hats," muttered Duck. "Of course we can," said Bramwell. "We wear the pirate hats and build ourselves a boat." "A boat each," cried Little Bear, pulling his hat on over his ears. "Well, we could build 2 boats," said Bramwell, "and Sailor could sail his own. Then we'd have 3. That's enough for a race." Everyone thought this sounded fun, and soon they were all back in the shed looking for boat-building materials. Little Bear found a piece of bicycle wheel. He tried to make it into a boat shape, but it didn't seem to want to be one. Jolly and Sailor discovered a box full of corks. Sailor was sure they would float well, but they couldn't think of how to join them together. Rabbit found a little wooden basket behind the door. "This is a good boat shape," he said, pulling it out to have a closer look. Little Bear peered into the basket too. At the bottom was an old tea-cloth. "And this," he said, lifting it out, "could be our sail. All we need now is a mast, and we'll have our boat." Meanwhile, Bramwell and Duck were over in the corner trying to find something useful, but were not having much luck. "We don't really need a mast with Jolly's long neck," said Bramwell. "He could hold our sail." "What sail?" said Duck, looking around. Bramwell produced an umbrella. "This sail might work," he said. "If Jolly holds it up, the wind will catch it and blow us along." "We haven't got a boat yet," said Duck. Bramwell had noticed Jolly. He'd found a pile of sticks and with Sailor's help was tying them together side by side. "What are you doing?" asked Bramwell. "I'm making us a raft," said Jolly proudly. "It'll be very strong when it's finished." "It'll need to be," muttered Duck, "if we're all going to float on it. I don't want to get my feet wet." Very soon, all 3 boats were ready and waiting by the door of the shed. Rabbit and Little Bear were the first to set off, pulling their little wooden basket boat out of the shed and down the path towards the stream. Bramwell, Jolly and Duck followed behind, towing their raft with the umbrella sail. While nobody was looking, Sailor had tied his little boat to Bramwell's and was having a free ride all the way down the path. At last, the 3 little boats arrived at the bank of the stream. "Ready to launch your boats," cried Bramwell. "Hats on." "I haven't got a pirate hat," said Rabbit. "Mine sank when it was trying to be a boat." "Never mind, Rabbit," said Little Bear. "You can borrow mine when we're afloat. Just give the boat a push." Rabbit gave the boat a big push and was just about to jump in when a big gust of wind filled the sail and Little Bear set off down the stream. "Wait for me!" cried Rabbit, running along the bank. The same gust of wind had caught Jolly's umbrella sail, and their raft didn't even need a push. It sped off from the bank with Bramwell, Duck and Jolly on board, and Sailor, who hadn't had time to untie his boat, trailing along behind. Rabbit was still running along beside Little Bear. "Pull down the sail," he puffed. "Then you'll slow down." Little Bear pulled. "It's stuck," he shouted. "I'll climb up and unhook it." Little Bear began to scramble up the mast. He was so busy climbing that he didn't notice the bridge. "Look out!" cried Rabbit, but he was too late. The mast struck the bridge and the boat fell over in the water. Little Bear flew from the top of the mast, bounced off Jolly's umbrella and landed in Bramwell's outstretched paws. "Phew, that was lucky," gasped Little Bear as Bramwell stood him down on the deck of the raft. "Not for us," moaned Duck, looking at the water round his feet. "This raft was only meant for 3, and there are 4 on here now." They floated under the bridge, but the raft was sinking lower and lower in the water. "Help!" shouted Little Bear. "We're going to sink. Where's Rabbit? He was here a minute ago." "Help!" shouted Bramwell, Jolly and Duck together. Then they heard a familiar sound. Looking up, they saw the little wooden aeroplane, with Rabbit as pilot, flying towards them. "Hooray!" they cried. "Rabbit to the rescue!" The plane flew round in a big circle, then low down over the stream. "Catch this!" shouted Rabbit, "and I'll tow you to the bank." He took the end of a long coil of rope and threw it down to Bramwell. Bramwell just managed to catch it before it slipped into the water, and he tied it to the front of the raft. Just as Sailor, at last, managed to untie his boat from the bank. With the other end of the towing rope tied to the plane, Rabbit began to pull the sinking raft slowly to the bank. Sailor sailed on down the stream. When everyone was safe and on dry land, Rabbit dropped his end of the rope. He flew round in a circle and landed the little plane on the grass, right in front of the other toys. He climbed down and bounded over to where they were waiting. "Oh, Rabbit," cried Little Bear, full of admiration. "You were wonderful." "You saved us just in time," said Jolly in a slightly wobbly voice. "It was a pity nobody won the race," muttered Duck. Just then, Sailor came paddling his boat back up the stream. "I won the race," he said. "I'm the only one left with a boat." "Well done, Sailor," said Jolly. "In future, I think we'll leave all the sailing to you." "And I'll make Rabbit a new hat," laughed Bramwell. "But this one will be a pilot's hat, not a pirate's hat."
this a story, old bear? We'll all gather round. Dear old bear, sit in your favorite chair. We'll sit all around dear old bear.
Bramwell Brown, Duck and Rabbit were standing by the toy shelves sorting through a big pile of boxes. "It's the sort of day," began Bramwell thoughtfully, "to do a jigsaw puzzle, a really big one." He pulled a box down from the shelf. "We haven't done this puzzle for a long time," he said. Rabbit and Duck agreed that it was a good idea, but there were toys and games all over the floor. "There isn't really room to do a puzzle," grumbled Duck. Just then Little Bear arrived. "What are you playing?" he asked, looking at the box in Bramwell's paws. "Can I play too?" "We're not playing," said Duck. "We're going to do a puzzle. A difficult one," he added. "Well, can I help?" asked Little Bear. "If you like," said Bramwell. "But first we must find somewhere clear enough to spread out the pieces." "I know where there's a place," said Little Bear. It didn't take long to find the spot. Bramwell emptied the box onto the floor, and they turned all the pieces the right way up. Then Little Bear sorted out all the bits with a straight edge to go round the outside. "Can I join them up now?" he asked. "No, that's a bit difficult," said Bramwell. "I think we'd better do it." Then, seeing Little Bear's disappointed face, he added, "But you can put in the last piece, if you like." So Little Bear waited, and waited, and waited. At last there was only one piece left. "Your turn," said Bramwell, handing it to Little Bear. Little Bear marched proudly into the middle of the puzzle and dropped the piece into the hole. "Oh no," he cried. "It doesn't fill it up. It's too small." "It must fit," said Rabbit. "It's the last piece." "Unless, of course, there's another last piece," said Duck. Bramwell turned the box upside down. "Not here," he said. "Perhaps someone's sitting on it." Everyone looked, but it was nowhere to be found. "Now I can't put in the last piece," moaned Little Bear, "and I really wanted to be the one to finish the puzzle." Just then, Duck tripped over a lump in the carpet. "I bet this is it," he said, prodding the lump. With Bramwell's help, they pushed the rug into a tunnel shape. Then Rabbit burrowed through the tunnel, right along past the lump and out the other end. "Did you get it?" asked Little Bear. "It wasn't the puzzle piece," said Rabbit breathlessly. "It was this," and he held up a little key. "Oh, no," cried Little Bear, "that's no good." "Actually," said Bramwell, "that might be just what we need. It's the key to the special box. All the lost things go into the special box, so our puzzle piece might be there. Come on, everyone, this way." Very soon, all the toys were crowded round the box. Bramwell turned the key in the lock and slowly lifted the lid. Little Bear clapped his paws with excitement. "This is like finding treasure," he squeaked. Inside were all sorts of odd things. Watches that didn't work, scissors that wouldn't cut, a shiny stone, a seashell, keys, combs, and kite string, but no puzzle piece. Suddenly, Little Bear reached into the box and pulled out a little shiny tube. "What's this?" he asked. "A rolling pin?" "No, I know," said Bramwell. "It's Sailor's telescope." Little Bear held it to his eye. "You do look small, Rabbit," he said. "Not as small as you," said Rabbit. "Actually, you're holding it the wrong way round," said Duck. "If you look in the other end, it will make things look bigger. Have a look around the room and see if you can see the puzzle piece." Little Bear scrambled up to the top of the box and looked all around. Suddenly, he got very excited. "I can see it!" he shouted. "Over there!" Still holding the telescope to his eye, he pointed across the room. "The flowers look huge through this," he said excitedly. The others rushed to where he was pointing and stopped. "Where is it now?" asked Bramwell. "You're right by it," said Little Bear. "But I can only see the sofa," said Bramwell. Little Bear lowered the telescope, slid down the box, and quickly joined the others. "That must be what I was looking at," he said, staring at the sofa. "It's got flowers on it, just like the puzzle piece." "Well, now we're here, we might as well search the sofa," said Rabbit. "Things sometimes get lost under the cushions." They climbed up onto the sofa and began to look. Little Bear lifted a corner of a cushion and dropped it very quickly. "Help!" he shouted. "There's a snake under there. I bet it's eaten our piece of puzzle." Bramwell lifted up the cushion, and there, coiled up, was a long string of buttons and beads. "It's not a real snake, Little Bear," he said. "But I saw it move," said Little Bear, hiding his eyes. "Beads can't move on their own," said Duck. But as he spoke, the snaky thing slithered out from under the cushion. "Quick, watch where it goes," said Rabbit. "It's probably got a heap of lost puzzle pieces in its nest." The very long snake slithered across the cushion, over the arm, and down beside the sofa, where Old Bear was sitting with the button box, threading the last bead on the nose of his snake. "Oh, it's you, Old Bear," said Little Bear. "We thought your snake was real." "I didn't," said Duck. "I just wondered who'd made it." "I was sorting out the button box," said Old Bear, "and I thought it would be fun to thread all the buttons and beads on one string, to see how many we had. Would you like to help me count them?" "We would later," said Bramwell, "but we're looking for a puzzle piece at the moment. I don't suppose you found it in the button box?" Old Bear looked. "There's nothing left in here except these two buttons. They don't have any holes, so I couldn't thread them." Little Bear stared at the two strange buttons in Old Bear's paw. "I've seen those somewhere before," he said thoughtfully. "I know. They're not buttons. They are the doll's house plates." "So they are," said Bramwell. "We'd better take them back to the dolls right away." Leaving Old Bear to finish his snake, the toys carried the plates to the doll's house and knocked on the door. The dolls came to open it and were very pleased when they saw the plates. "How wonderful," said Mrs. Doll. "We thought they were lost. Now we will be able to give everyone biscuits with their tea. Would you like some?" "Oh, yes, please," said Little Bear. "We're very hungry. We've been looking for our missing puzzle piece. Have you seen it?" The dolls shook their heads. "I'm afraid we haven't," said Mrs. Doll, and she went indoors to make the tea. Bramwell and the others sat down outside the house, and the dolls soon came out, carrying a tray of drinks and tiny plates of food. "Thank you," said Bramwell. "That's just what we needed." But Little Bear was staring at Mrs. Doll's tray. "And I think," he said, "that you have something else we need. Where did you find your tray?" Mrs. Doll unloaded the last of the plates of food and held up the tray to admire it. "It's lovely, isn't it?" she said. "There was a whole box of them, all different shapes and sizes. I like the flowers on this one." "So do we," squeaked Little Bear. "It's our missing puzzle piece." "Is it really?" said Mrs. Doll. She handed Little Bear the tray, and he ran across to the puzzle and then carefully slipped it into the hole. It fitted perfectly. "Well done, Little Bear," cried Bramwell Brown, and everyone clapped and cheered. When they'd all had time to admire the puzzle, Bramwell said they should put the pieces back in the box. While the toys had great fun breaking up the puzzle, Little Bear held tightly onto the last piece and looked at it thoughtfully. Then he jumped up, ran back to the doll's house, and presented it to Mrs. Doll. "Why don't you borrow the puzzle piece tray?" he said. "After all, it's no use to anyone just sitting in the box." "That's a very kind thought, Little Bear," said Bramwell, coming over to join them. "And next time we do our puzzle, we'll know exactly where to look."